Was the MG-42 Germany's best machine gun? For mass production and raw suppressive fire, yes. It fired roughly 1,200 to 1,400 rounds per minute, used fewer expensive machined parts than the MG-34, and could change barrels in seconds. This is every major German machine gun in the catalogue. First, we have the MG-8. This was a recoil-operated Maxim gun with a water-filled barrel jacket, mounted on a heavy sled and fed by 250-round fabric belts. It fired the standard 7.92 by 57mm cartridge at roughly 400 to 450 rounds per minute. The complete weapon and mount weighed well beyond 80 pounds before anyone added ammunition, water, or the men required to move it. By World War II, the MG-8 was mainly a reserve, fortress, training, and rear area weapon. It remained effective from a prepared position, provided the tactical plan included enough ammunition, several strong backs, and basic plumbing. Next, we have the MG-815. It retained the recoil-operated and water-cooled Maxim mechanism, but added a wooden shoulder stock, pistol grip, bipod, and equipment intended to make it portable. It used 7.92 by 57mm ammunition in 100 or 200 round fabric belts carried in a drum or ammunition box. With water and ammunition, the complete firing system could approach 22 kilograms. It remained in German second-line service during World War II, where its reliability was more valuable than its mobility. It was lighter than the MG-8 in the same way that a small piano is lighter than a large piano. Let us continue with the MG-818. This version removed the water jacket and replaced it with a heavy air-cooled barrel inside a slotted jacket. The operating system, stock, feed arrangement, and 7.92 by 57mm chambering remained closely related to the MG-815. The missing water equipment reduced the burden, but sustained fire heated the barrel rapidly, and changing that barrel was not a quick battlefield procedure. Production had been extremely limited, so its presence during World War II was negligible. It was an interesting solution delivered too late and in too few numbers to solve anything. Moving on to the MG-13. This was an air-cooled, recoil-operated development of the earlier Drace machine gun. It normally used a 25-round curved box magazine, although a 75-round saddle magazine was also developed. And its maximum rate of fire was about 750 rounds per minute. The MG-13 was still Germany's principal infantry machine gun during the early rearmament period, and armed vehicles such as the Panzer I, which carried 2 guns and more than 1,500 rounds. Most infantry examples were later withdrawn, exported, or transferred to training and secondary service as the MG-34 became available. The MG-13 helped rebuild German machine gun training. It was never the weapon Germany intended to keep once something better existed. Next, we have the MG-15. This was a recoil-operated aircraft machine gun assisted by residual muzzle gas and designed for flexible defensive mountings. It fired 7.92 by 57mm ammunition from a 75-round saddle magazine at approximately 1,000 rounds per minute. The gun weighed about 15.75 pounds without its aircraft mounting. After newer aircraft weapons replaced it, surplus MG-15s received shoulder rests, bipod adapters, and other equipment for ground service. It worked, but a 75-round aircraft magazine was not suddenly transformed into an ideal infantry ammunition system because someone attached a wooden stock. Let us continue with the MG-17. This was the fixed, belt-fed relative of the MG-15, intended for installation inside aircraft rather than manual operation by an air gunner. It fired 7.92 by 57mm ammunition at about 1,100 rounds per minute when unsynchronized, or roughly 1,000 when firing through a propeller arc. The complete gun and control mechanism weighed approximately 27.75 pounds. It provided useful concentrated fire during the early war, but rifle-caliber bullets became increasingly inadequate against better protected aircraft. The Luftwaffe therefore moved toward 13mm machine guns and 20mm cannon. Aircraft armor had the irritating habit of improving, moving on to the MG-34. This was an air-cooled, short-recoil-operated machine gun using a rotating locking system and a muzzle booster. It fired 7.92 by 57mm ammunition from connectable 50-round metallic belts, 50-round belt drums, or a special 75-round saddle magazine. With its bipod, the gun weighed roughly 26 pounds and normally fired at around 900 rounds per minute. It could serve from a bipod, a sustained fire tripod, an anti-aircraft mount, or the ball mounting of a tank. That flexibility made the MG-34 Germany's true all-war machine gun. Its weakness was production. It demanded extensive precision machining and was less tolerant of dirt and poor adjustment than German propaganda departments might have preferred. Next, we have the MG-34S. This was a high-rate experimental development of the MG-34 with full automatic fire only. It received a shorter barrel, enlarged muzzle section, simplified trigger components, stronger buffer, heavier recoil spring, and modified feed mechanism. The weapon measured roughly 44.25 inches and weighed about 24 pounds without its bipod. Surviving publications give conflicting cyclocrate figures, but the design objective was clearly to fire faster than the standard MG-34. The MG-34S was a transitional experiment, not a widely issued combat weapon. German engineers attempted to simplify the MG-34 by making its mechanism work harder, which was certainly one approach. Let us continue with the MG-34-41. This was a further development of the MG-34S and retained the shorter barrel, full automatic-only trigger, stronger buffer, heavier spring, and reinforced feed components. Wartime Allied examination reports distinguished it from the MG-34S partly by its perforated operating handle. It remained chambered for 7.92 by 57mm ammunition and was approximately 44.25 inches long. Published rate of fire figures are inconsistent, although the weapon was unquestionably intended as a high-rate MG-34 derivative. Only a limited number reached troop trials. The MG-34-41 demonstrated that continuously modifying an expensive design was less sensible than adopting a simpler new one. Moving on to the MG-35-36 Norbrems. This was an air-cooled, gas-operated light machine gun, firing from an open bolt. It used the 7.92 by 57mm cartridge and fed from a 25-round box magazine inserted into the left side of the receiver. Its unusual muzzle-operated gas arrangement required a short barrel, while its long stock and side-mounted magazine produced poor balance. German service was limited and is principally associated with Waffen-SS, training, and secondary use, although exact issue totals remain poorly documented. It never seriously challenged the MG-34. A machine gun designed by a company best known for railway brakes was apparently not the shortcut German procurement had hoped for. Next, we have the MG-42. This was an air-cooled, short-recoil-operated general-purpose machine gun using a roller locking system. It fired 7.92 by 57mm ammunition from connectable 50-round metallic belts at roughly 1,200 to 1,400 rounds per minute. The bipod-equipped weapon weighed about 25 pounds, and its side-opening barrel jacket allowed a trained crew to replace a hot barrel within seconds. Extensive use of stamped components made it faster and less expensive to manufacture than the MG-34. In combat, its high rate produced a dense burst before a target could disappear behind cover. It also consumed ammunition and overheated barrels with admirable efficiency, so German instructions emphasized bursts of roughly 5 to 7 rounds. Let us continue with the MG-81. This was a compact, belt-fed aircraft machine gun operating through recoil and residual muzzle gas pressure. Chambered for 7.92 by 57mm ammunition, it weighed slightly under 14 pounds and fired between 1,200 and 1,500 rounds per minute. It entered production in 1939 and replaced the MG-15 as the Luftwaffe's standard rifle-caliber flexible gun. As obsolete aircraft were withdrawn, individual MG-81s appeared on improvised ground and anti-aircraft mountings. The gun delivered considerable fire from a light package. Controlling it from a field mounting while supplying enough ammunition was someone else's problem. Moving on to the MG-81Z, the MG-81Z was not an entirely separate weapon. It combined two MG-81 machine guns in a twin installation, linked to a common firing control and used in aircraft defensive positions. Together, the two guns could theoretically deliver between 2,400 and 3,000 rounds per minute. The configuration produced a dense wall of fire without requiring the development of a new gun. It also doubled ammunition consumption while still firing rifle-caliber projectiles. Subtlety was not part of the specification. Next, we have the MG-131. This was a compact, recoil-operated heavy aircraft machine gun with electric firing and a disintegrating link belt feed. It fired the 13 by 64mm cartridge and weighed approximately 40 pounds. The cyclic rate was around 900 rounds per minute, and available projectiles included armor-piercing tracer, high-explosive tracer, and incendiary types. Its compact dimensions and electric firing system made synchronized and tightly enclosed aircraft installations practical. The MG-131 gave German fighters and bombers substantially more destructive fire than the older rifle-caliber weapons. By the middle of the war, 7.92mm aircraft guns were no longer enough. Finally, we have the MG-151-15. This was a recoil-operated, belt-fed aircraft weapon with electrical cocking and solenoid-controlled percussion firing. It fired the 15 by 96mm cartridge and weighed approximately 84 pounds when fitted with its electrical control equipment. Its rate of fire was roughly 750 rounds per minute with armor-piercing ammunition and about 680 with high-explosive ammunition. Aircraft guns were also installed in triple ground mountings on half-tracked vehicles for anti-aircraft and ground-fire duties. The 15mm projectile offered greater velocity and penetration than rifle-caliber ammunition, but limited explosive effect. The later 20mm version delivered far more destructive projectiles from essentially the same design, making the MG-151-15 an effective weapon with an unusually obvious replacement. Germany's machine gun development during World War II did not move in a straight line. The MG-8 represented the old water-cooled system. The MG-34 established the general-purpose concept. The MG-42 made that concept easier to manufacture, while the aircraft weapons followed the separate demand for lighter guns, higher rates of fire, and heavier projectiles. The MG-42 became the icon. But the MG-34 was the weapon that connected the infantry squad, the heavy tripod team, the anti-aircraft mount, and the German tank fleet into one machine gun system.